To read or not to read? That is the question. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alice. We talk about books. Sometimes we do some vlog and lifestyle content. If you're looking for someone to stick on in the background while you make yourself a meal, clean your room, do that thing you've been putting off for the longest time, or you just want someone to listen to, then I'm your gal. So consider hitting that subscribe button. Come on in, join the family. It is free and you can unsubscribe at any time. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for your continued support. Let's get on with today's video. Sorry, just a quick disclaimer, I am still ill. That's why the uploads have been a little bit crazy this week. Only had 2. I know, I'm sorry guys. And the upload schedule as follows from now until New Year's will be today, the 21st, the 24th, the 28th and the 31st. And then we will go to our 2025 schedule and it's gonna be a good time. All right, so I will see you guys then. Let's get on with today's video. I'm calling this to read or not to read. Basically, I'm going to try not to waffle on too much, but we're going to go through all the books I've read this year. And I will say it is fiction edition, so I'm not including any of the non-fiction books I've read this year. That can be for another time, you know, something a little bit extra. At the end of the year, we'll do a books wrap, so it'll be involved there. But we're just doing fiction edition, to read or not to read this year. So let's get on with it. So as always, let's bring in the trusty steed of the laptop and let's get going. At the start of the year, we read a lot of books on the Kindle. So for some of them, you will just have a Kindle. I'm sorry. How this video is going to go is I'm going to say the title of the book, show you it. So either with the physical copy or just my Kindle, and I'll have to do a little bit of editing, put the picture on there. And I'll just simply tell you whether it's worth the read or not. Okay? You know me, it might not be a bit simple. I might waffle a little bit, but we're going to try and keep it clear and concise. So let's do it. Starting off in January 2024 with Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and I would say read. I thought this was a good book, though I'm not strong. Next up on the Kindle, we have Love Theoretically. See, this is harder than I thought because it's all subjective. I would say read. I enjoyed it. It's not the best thing ever, but if you fancy it, it's your kind of vibe, give it a go. Next up, we have a series. We have the Devil's Night series, which I read on my Kindle. Now, the series as a whole, I would vote no, don't bother. I feel like unless you're really, really into that kind of genre, super into Penelope Douglas and dark romance, then yes, but then you've probably already read it. But no, I wouldn't recommend reading it. However, I would say that the 4th book I did enjoy, and I would say read that book, but there's no point reading it if you don't have the rest of the stories, right? So unfortunately, Miss Penelope Douglas's series Devil's Night is going to get a to not be read status. So oops, sorry, don't hate me, it's just personal opinion. You can read what you want to read, okay? You don't have to listen to me. You can, but you don't have to. All right, you do you. Included in that, I never actually finished the final little novella, but I did read the Conclave one. I think that's the worst thing I've ever read in my life. It was a waste of time. So yeah, no thank you. Oh, then we come on to ACOTAR, A Court of Thorn and Roses. So honestly, great times. I loved it. I would absolutely recommend reading this series. It's definitely not for everyone because it is fantasy, so you know, do your vibes. But yeah, I think I said this before, A Court of Wings and Ruin is one of my highest rated books this whole year. I loved it. It was amazing. Pulled me apart, put me back together again. You know, there was so much going on. 100% would say read them all. I quite enjoyed the little extra Frost and Starlight one as well. Some people say, I don't know if it's worth it. I would say read it. Give it a go. Thumbs up from me on that one. Obviously, I'm just saying, oh yeah, read this series, but it's like 5 books. So within that series, there's a lot, but you got to read them all because otherwise it doesn't make sense. So sorry, not sorry. Next up, we have Butcher and Blackbird. To be honest, I would say no, it doesn't have to be read. You can if you want. It's a bit weird. I will probably continue the series just because I've started it now and I'm kind of intrigued, but no, it's not really it's just a bit weird, but you know, it is what it is. Then we read our first ever piece of Vietnamese literature, so The Tale or The Song of Kia, and I really enjoyed this. Honestly, it's like an epic long, not poem, but kind of. You guys can go watch the video if you want to hear more about it, but I would actually say yes, I would really recommend it. It was such a great story, and it's really good to kind of read lots of different literature from lots of different countries and cultures, and I really enjoyed it, so why not? Treat yourself. Transitioning on to the physical books now. This is my thing. I do love the Kindle and it does help me read a lot more in the year, but I'm just a physical copy gal, aren't I? you guys know. Pride and Prej, yeah, and you gotta read it. You know, it's a lot, it's not for everyone, but I did love it. And also, one of my really good friends, George, he loved it as well. So there you go, you got the extra approval. I really enjoyed this. So yeah, please do go and read it. Then we finished the Thursday Murder Club. We don't know, he might come back in the future, but for now, yeah, I mean, you guys know I love this series. Obviously, this is the only book from this series that I read this year. I would recommend the entire series, and obviously you can't really read this one without reading the series because you have no idea what's going on. I would say yes. I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favourite of the series, I don't think, but I did think it did well at bringing everything together. Then we are on to the Bridgerton section. Woo! So these are the other half of the Bridgerton that I read this year. I think you guys already know what I'm gonna say. Obviously read. I will say this, the little extra bit, up to you. I read it. I'm glad I read it. It was fun just to kind of have a little extra chapter from each book, but it's not the end of the world if you don't read it. It doesn't add too much. There wasn't like these amazing moments in there, but there were some fun little bits and bobs, and it was nice seeing your characters kind of all interact. So this could be a maybe. Definitely with these ones. Obviously read the others. I will say that I think you can read the Bridgertons in kind of whichever order you want, but when it does get to the second half of the book, like these two, they kind of maybe have a couple of spoilers in them. I feel like you can pretty much read them as and when you want, just kind of accept that they're probably gonna get together. So, I mean, you know that's what the idea of Bridgerton is, so I feel like that wouldn't really spoil anything. So read them as you want, really, in any order. Go for it. Why not? Next up, we have Hooked. I would say no. I'd say no. It doesn't need to be read. I will go back to this series and give it a second chance, but I don't really think it was anything special. I think it was kind of cray and maybe a bit too dark for me. So I'm definitely trying with dark romance, but as we can see so far, it's not necessarily my favourite genre. I just think sometimes it's a little too far-fetched. Sorry guys, I'm gonna say do not read on this one. Right, next up we've got another series, guys. We've got the Twisted series. Now, I'm very conflicted about this one because I did enjoy it. It is dark romance, and goodness me, they're so slippery. I did enjoy these, and I would say read them. I think I would say read them, but I wouldn't say they're definitely not for everyone because they are in this dark romance. I feel like from the dark romance I've read this year, this series was probably the one I enjoyed the most and probably would read again. I will say this book I thought was pointless. Well, I mean, it adds things to the story, but I don't really like this one. But these three I did like. Twisted Games and Lies were my favourite. I feel like I would say read them if you've been thinking about it and it looks like something that would appeal to you. And I would definitely say go for it. But it's not necessarily needs to be on the top of the TBR. Now, I'm glad I read them and I had a really nice time. And I love these editions that my nan had got for me. I don't know. I feel like in the dark romance, I like this. I like these books. So I would say yeah, maybe if you don't bother with that one, but I do kind of get that you need to have all of them because they do put little bits and bobs and sprinkle it together. So you don't maybe understand the dynamics if you don't read all of them, but just kind of bear it through Twisted Hate and see how you get on and you should be fine. I think it's good though. I like it. I liked it. Okay, we'll say read. We'll say read. Another series, I think you guys know what I'm gonna say. Read it. Yep, 100%. The Hobbit is good. We will have a video on that. That is an extra one that will be coming soon. Hobbit's good and it's like funny and it's in a slightly different style to Lord of the Rings, but I really do enjoy all of them, so don't even have to think about that one. Go read it. Then we read Wrong Place, Wrong Time. It was good. It was different, but I would probably say don't bother. It wasn't out of this world. It was good. If you want to read it, read it. But if you hadn't heard about it before, I wouldn't say go for it. This one's a conflicting one because I've told you guys so much before. It's so crazy. It's so like messed up and so weird, but it's also very captivating and very unique. So I would say yes, but please make sure you read all of the trigger warnings and everything before. You should do this anyway when you're reading because you know we want happy and safe readers, but specifically with books like this one, it is a lot. So I would say read. If you've been thinking about it, read. If you think it's going to be too much, don't force it. Then we've got Agatha Christie, Halloween Party. I love this book cover. It wasn't the best book. I would probably say don't bother reading it. I will try Agatha Christie again. I know she's got good books out there. This one wasn't that great, so I'd probably say not worth it. Right, and then rounding up to where we are right now, guys. Fourth Wing. Yeah, I would say 100% read. It was really, really good, but I appreciate it's not going to be for everyone because it is fantasy. so fantasy can be a little bit unsure, but I would definitely say read. I enjoyed this a lot. Then we have the first half of the Maze Runner series. I would say read. I'm really enjoying this. It's so nostalgic, it's so dystopian, wild, crazy. Loving it, absolutely loving it. All right, so that rounds up to where we are so far. We will do a reading wrapped at the end where we will recap this, but this is just a little to read or not to read fiction edition for you. So without further ado, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. Have you subscribed? Thank you very much, and as always, until the next one, I'll see you then. Bye. Oh fuck, now I've got to put these all back.